Villarosa. I need to go in, ah. Hmm? Huh? No, I need to go in there. Why you have to get the fish? Are you
chair would like to first state the parliamentary situation. After the privileged speech of the Honorable Bato, he asked that the chair recognize Senator Bongo to deliver a seconding speech to the motion he made at the end of his privileged speech. The chair has not yet acted on that motion and has not yet recognized Senator Go. And before the chair declared a short suspension, two members raised their hand to be acknowledged and be heard, and the chair intends to listen to them first before acting on the pending motion. Senator Ontiveros first, and then Senator Villanueva. You may proceed, ma'am.
Maraming salamat po, Mr. President. Immediately after the speech of the good gentleman from Davao, I move that any interpellation or any action, any seconding speech on the privileged speech be suspended momentarily after his speech to allow us to take our oath, which was the subject of the approved motion yesterday, and again, which was the subject of the approved motion yesterday, which is an offshoot of a question of privilege, which takes precedence over all motions. So I restate my motion, Mr. President, to momentarily suspend any action, whether interpellation or seconding speech, on the privileged speech of the good gentleman from Davao, para sa wakas bigyang daan yung inaprubahan nating motion kahapon na manumpa na po kaming I still have the floor. I have the floor, Mr. President. I have the floor, Mr. President, to make way for taking of the oath before the presiding officer.
What is the point of order of Senator Marcos?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. President. And I'd just like to reiterate that I wasn't being rude, but simply recognizing the fact that the point of order takes precedence over all other motions. Also, that there is, in fact, a motion already pending on the floor, already acknowledged as well by our majority leader, which requires a vote.
Duly noted, but the chair has not yet acted on the motion and there has been no objection as of yet. We will address the motion of Senator Bato, as the chair said earlier, after we hear from Senator Villanueva now.
With all due respect, Senate President, the Deputy Minority Leader is proposing yet another motion on top of the pending motion.
The chair
that
will
is not allowed.
The chair has not yet acted on that motion and will not yet so act on that motion. And we'll be making a ruling after we hear from all of those who raised their hands earlier. So, with the indulgence of Senator Marcos, can we hear from Senator Villanueva?
Thank you very much.
And then the chair will rule on the pending matters. Senator Villanueva is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. Mr. President, if I hear it right, the movant made a motion to dismiss the impeachment complaint, if I heard it right, Mr. President. Mr. President, may I just place on record that this representation respectfully object to that motion. Mr. President, for various reasons, Mr. President, that this representation would like to raise on the floor, Mr. President. One, Mr. President, is that the Senate, as a legislative body, and at this point in time, we have not yet convened, Mr. President, as an impeachment court. And therefore, Mr. President, this representation believes that we have no constitutional authority as legislative body to dismiss an impeachment complaint. Let me quote the Constitution under Article 11, Section 3, Number 6 of the 87 Constitution. The Senate's role is expressly limited to trying and deciding all cases of impeachment after the House of Representatives has transmitted a valid articles of impeachment. Mr. President, the Senate, in its capacity as a legislative body, does not possess the constitutional authority to unilaterally dismiss an impeachment complaint. And under the constitutional framework, the Senate assumes a distinct and separate function when acting an impeachment court. Please don't get me wrong, Mr. President. In fact, a lot of the statements made by Senator Bato de la Rosa, I share. I share the sentiments, Mr. President. In fact, Mr. President, when the impeachment case was filed, or the articles of impeachment were transmitted here in the Senate, an hour before we adjourned, Mr. President, before our break, a week after, more than 380 pages, Mr. President, of annexes ang dumating po, Mr. President. So, dun pa lang, Mr. President, I agree with Senator Bato's statement na somehow minadali or tignan natin. But again, Mr. President, my only concern here is that we have not yet convened as an impeachment court. Miss this or even entertain the motion. Let me go to my other point, Mr. President. Power to dismiss an impeachment complaint and has no. And that's why, Mr. President, if you this representation mentioned that notices are very important when the minority leader made a motion yesterday that he wanted to stop our legislative work and proceed with the convening of the impeachment court. And he made mention about the calendar of activities, kung kailan magsisimula, ano yung timelines, etc., Mr. President. And that's why I objected again, Mr. President. So in the name of consistency, Mr. President, let me again state for the record, the power of initial determination belongs solely to the House of Representatives. You and I, Mr. President, were members of the House for quite a long time. And we talk about it all the time, that it is the sole power of the House to determine kung yung impeachment or articles of impeachment na itatransmit sa Senado ay mayroong required votes, etc., etc., at ang tanging sole authority naman ng Senado is to act as an impeachment court, not, Mr. President, not as a gatekeeper of the complaints sufficiency. Further, Mr. President, it bears emphasis that the framers of the Constitution intended a clear division of roles. House initiates and the Senate tries and decides. Again, Mr. President, I am not even going to say whether or not I will support the motion of our dear colleague, Senator Bato de la Rosa. I'm just saying, Mr. President, that it should be posed, Mr. President, in the impeachment court. Last but not the least, Mr. President, the Senate as a legislative body, or even when it sits as an impeachment court, Mr. President, ito po yung ating posisyon, may not dismiss the impeachment complaint due to change of Congress. Impeachment, Mr. President, is a political discretion. It's not a political discretion, but a constitutional mechanism rooted in the principle that public office is a public trust. Alam na po natin lahat yan bilang mga lingkod bayan. Yung sinasaad ng 87 Constitution, which provides public office, the public trust, public officers and employees must at all times be accountable to the people. This duty, Mr. President, is not suspended, nullified, or extinguished by the expiration of the legislative calendar or the transition to a new Congress. But again, I also believe and support the statements made a while ago by Senator Bato de la Rosa. Yung pong officials ng Senado, hindi ho applicable sa atin dahil kalahati nga ho sa atin dito magiging parte pa rin ng impeachment court, parte pa rin ng Senado. Pero doon po sa House, hindi na. So kailangan talaga na malaman natin kung sila'y interesado pa doon sa impeachment na kanilang i-final. Mr. President, just this morning, if I don't know if this morning or last night, I saw an article of I'm not sure if it's Justice Ascuna or Attorney Divina saying that the House must actually do something, whether at least, the very least is to pass a resolution authorizing, Mr. President, their representatives, their prosecutors, that they are indeed have the blessing of the 20th Congress. Kaya po, muli, Ginoong Pangulo, ang aking pag-object doon po sa motion ng ating kagalang-galang at kaibigan, Senator Judy Villarosa, ay base po sa mga binanggit ko po ng mga reasons. Maraming salamat, Ginoong Pangulo.
Before the chair makes a ruling, Senator Bato.
Yes, Mr. President. I just would like to share this august body, the basis for my motion. According to Chief Justice Renato Puno in Francisco versus House of Representatives, a number of things can be done before the Senate is convened as an impeachment court. For example, the Senate, which has the primary jurisdiction over the case, can decide the question of whether the one-year ban has been violated or not. Likewise, the Senate can decide whether the complaint on its face has any
Shut up, Bato.
legal
Tama na yan. You ang haba na ng ano mo ha, speech mo. That is enough. Mag-oats na kayo, ano ba? 4 o'clock yun ha.
Chair would like to state the parliamentary status and make a ruling. Again, to reiterate, Senator Bato, after the end of his privileged speech, made a motion, but before the chair could act on that motion, he asked for the recognition of Senator Bato, who wanted to second the motion of Senator Bato at the end of his speech. Before the chair could act on that motion and recognize Senator Bato, Senator Tiveros and Senator Villanueva signified their intention to speak. Senator Ontiveros made a motion. Made a motion to suspend further consideration of the matter at hand so that we can proceed to take our oaths.
Proceed.
And then Senator Marcos raised the point of order that there are too many pending motions on the floor and that we should dispose of them, as correctly pointed out by her. Senator Villanueva objected to the motion of Senator Bato. With the permission of Senator Villanueva, hindi ko po ituturing na objection yung inyong sinabi dahil ayon mismo sa inyo, hindi naman kayo tutol dun sa motion ni Senator Bato, kanya lamang. Gusto nyo at sa paniniwala nyo, pwede lamang ito magawa kapag tayo ay isang impeachment court na at hindi bilang isang Senado. Ayon sa authority na kinukot ni Senator Bato, may opinion, may concurring opinion si dating Chief Justice Puno na pwedeng itong gawin ng Senado. Concurring opinion siya sa, concurring and dissenting opinion siya sa pagkakaalala ko sa Francisco. With the permission of the gentleman on the floor, the chair is of the considered view that and takes well the position of Senator Villanueva. We will act on the motion of Senator Bato, but as an impeachment court. We cannot act on the motion of Senator Bato unless we take our oaths as members of the impeachment court. Therefore, once the impeachment court is after we take our oaths and we convene the impeachment court, Senator Bato can reiterate his motion, Senator Go can then second his motion if at all, and we will proceed to dispose of such motion after we hear from everyone who wants to speak on the matter.
Mr. President, just to clarify your statement, Mr.
Senator
President.
Villanueva, before I make a ruling.
Yes, Mr. President, you were saying, Mr. President, because the way I look at it, you're saying, Mr. President, that in order for us to dispense with the motion of Senator Bato, we would have to convene.
We would have to convene the impeachment court, as you said earlier.
Yes, Mr. President, I thank you for that. But in order for us to convene again, Mr. President, and just for the information of our law students and those who wanted to learn from these proceedings, Mr. President, this representation made a statement yesterday that we cannot proceed with the convening of the impeachment court unless we issue notices, Mr. President. And I made mention about it because the minority leader's motion yesterday was to convene and at the same time talk about the calendar of activities, Mr. President. And so I would just like to put that on record, Mr. President, because we are not going to discuss the agenda of the if we convene the impeachment court. Is that the case, Mr.
The
President?
matters to be discussed requiring notice included the proposed schedule of the impeachment complaint, which needed the presence of the parties, however.
Because if we can do it by ourselves, for example, Mr. President, just
This is the banana, no?
approving our rules on impeachment,
That's how I cook. You have to
issuing
cook.
summons. We don't need to issue notices. Is that correct, Mr. President?
However, there are certain
Can you
matters
cut
that
this
the court
episode?
can do motu proprio.
Cut this
Yes.
And it would perhaps include these matters, which is up for the consideration of the court once we convene. So again,
Mr. President, thank you.
Senator Bato is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just would like to counter the statement of Senator Judy Villarosa, Mr. President.
Kung ayaw ni Bato
Senate President
ayaw ni Bato mag-oats,
mentioned
di wag,
yesterday,
bayaan mo siya.
the Senate
Desisyon niya yan.
dismissed the impeachment complaint against Ombudsman Gutierrez.
Ay,
after
wag
she
nyo nang
resigned
isali yung mga nakaraan. Yun ngayon ang usapan, hindi yung mga nakaraan pa.
Therefore, the Senate
Mag-oats na, oy!
convening into impeachment court.
Delaying tactic kayo. Sayang yung oras, sayang yung kuryente
The
dyan sa
impeachment
Senado.
tactics, Mr. President, it's very clear.
Mag-dinner pa kayo dyan?
When you say iba nga kasi nag-resign. Pero still, the capacity or the legality of the action of the Senate not convened as an impeachment court was that question.
Hindi, wag ka mag-oats. Hindi ka naman pinipilit kung ayaw mo mag-oats eh. Di, wag.
Considering this case,
Hindi ka sumali dyan sa
we
ano.
can do the same, Mr. President.
Why you have to follow it? This
Mr.
different.
President, if I may, Mr. President, this is in reaction, Mr.
With the
President.
permission of the gentlemen who have the floor, Chair will suspend for a few minutes
Ano
because
ba yan?
you will most likely simply engage in a debate because clearly you
Ano
both
na
have
naman
different positions on
yan?
the matter. Session is
Suspend
suspended.
na naman? My God. Ang gulo nyo ah. Bakit ganyan kayo? Yes.
Can you give me the banana and then put some sugar with it?
Oh. Puro na lang kayo suspend. My God. Suspended na naman? My God. Wala kayong balak. Alam mo yung mas maganda nga yung mag-trial sa impeachment para mailabas yung totoo. At kung wala namang kasalanan, di harapin. Ang problema kung may kasalanan. Diba? Ay, my God. Nainis na kayo. Mas mabuti nga yan di ba? Na may trial para ilahad-lahat ng mga ginawa. Kung wala naman siyang ginawa, wala namang problema. Hindi siya ma-impeach. Mas mabuti ngayon, nagpagtanggol niya sarili niya dyan. Which one you want to eat
Chair
first?
would like to make a ruling with the permission and indulgence of the gentleman who had the floor earlier. Again, to reiterate the parliamentary status. It is the opinion of Senator Villanueva that we can only act on the motion of Senator Bato if we could